In case you've been sleeping under a rock or are just new to the channel, we have been previewing divisions for the 2020 season for a little over 2 weeks now. We have done all but the one in today's video, which of course is the AFC West. The AFC West is home to the defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs and players like Patrick Mahomes, Drew Lock, Joey Bosa, and rookie Henry Ruggs. While the Chiefs are head and shoulders above the other teams in this division on paper, they still have to play the games, and the phrase "any given Sunday" certainly occurs here, as who would have thought the Titans would go into Baltimore and beat the Ravens in the playoffs last year? And while I don't think the Broncos will take that next step and dethrone the Chiefs in Drew Lock's second year, they will progress and have a good year, and that's something we will discuss later in this video, is how they do and how everyone else in the division will do for that matter. But before we get started, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now let's begin. As we have with the other videos, we go from worst to first based on last year's division, so we start today's video with the Los Angeles Chargers. In 2019, the Chargers had an overall weird year. They started out 1-0 with a thrilling overtime win against the Colts, in which Austin Eckler immediately made fantasy owners happy with the 154 total yard, 3 touchdown performance. After that though, they were 1-5 in their next 6 games, then had back-to-back wins, putting them at 4-5 through 9 games, but went just 1-6 to finish the year at 5-11 and ultimately finished with the 6th overall draft pick. In the process of this, they lost longtime franchise player Phillip Rivers, and although he didn't play in 2019, he formally announced his retirement this offseason in tight end Antonio Gates. What's surprising though about the Chargers going 5-11 is they have legitimate playmakers on their defense, like Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram, Derwin James, and Casey Hayward, and they created just 14 turnovers in 2019, which was dead last in the league. In 2020, they will look to be creating more turnovers, there's no doubt about that. And aside from a game where the Minnesota Vikings absolutely destroyed them, 9 of their other 10 losses were by 1 score, so they were in every game. This team was a few bounces every game from being a 5-11 team to a 13-3 team, and had they not finished dead last in turnovers in 2019, there's a real possibility they could have went to the postseason and been a problem at that. With that in the rearview mirror though, we take a look at the 2020 season for the Chargers, and you can't start this off without talking about Tyrod Taylor and Justin Herbert. We will know in a few years what type of pro player Herbert will be, but for 2020 specifically, which is the topic of this video, I don't think he plays that much unless Tyrod is astronomically bad, or if they start out something like 0-4 or 1-5. And as we said, 9 of the Chargers' 11 losses were by 1 score, so it's not like they were the Dolphins, who started off the year with a 59-10 loss and a 43-0 loss. And with the Chargers finishing dead last in turnovers in 2019, one would have to think head coach Anthony Lynn will be preaching during the virtual meetings more than ever about poking a ball loose or being more aggressive to give his guys a chance and ultimately win the team a football game. Now looking at their schedule, they open up against the Bengals, which can be a 1-0 start, followed by the Chiefs and Panthers in Los Angeles and at Tampa. At best, I think they can go 3-1 to open the year, and at worst, 1-3. The only guaranteed losses I think they have on their schedule is at New Orleans and at Kansas City, as they can compete in every other game. At Buffalo and at Denver will be very tough games, but anything can happen in the NFL. I think the Chargers, more than a lot of teams, have a huge gap in what they can do wins-wise, because if they go 4-12, it wouldn't surprise me with poor quarterback play, but if they go 11-5 with above average quarterback play from the former Pro Bowler Tyrod Taylor, it wouldn't surprise me either. This team can be a 5-seeded wildcard as easily as they can be out of contention by Halloween. Now we go to the Las Vegas Raiders, who finished 2019 at 7-9. They made some roster improvements this season with the addition of players like Henry Ruggs, Jason Witten, Marcus Mariota, and safety Demarius Randall. The Raiders in 2019 were by nearly every definition average. They had a few solid wins in Denver, at Indy, and the Bears in London, but of their 9 losses, 6 were by double digits and 4 were by more than 20 points. They do have a very promising young running back in Josh Jacobs, who should again be a 1,000-yard back, as in his rookie season he had over 1,300 total yards in just 13 games. Derek Carr also quietly had his second straight 4,000-yard season and finished 8th in the NFL in that statistic. He also finished 8th in completions and 2nd in completion percentage, so from a statistical standpoint, Carr certainly didn't do too bad. In addition to this, tight end Darren Waller had 90 catches for over 1,100 yards and proved he can be a legitimate starting NFL tight end. Despite the Raiders signing Witten, this could help Waller out due to the mentorship aspect Witten will provide. Everyone knows Witten's best days are long behind him. I mean, he already retired once, and at this point he knows he's going to a team where they had a 1,000-yard tight end, and anything he can provide from a mental standpoint could help Waller's career out down the road. The Raiders will be an interesting team to watch in 2020, due in large part to all of their offensive weapons. With players like Darren Waller, Henry Ruggs, and Josh Jacobs, fantasy players will continuously be checking in on them to see how their guy is doing. Now, looking at their schedule, it is a rough first 5 games because they start out with a 3,000-mile trip to Carolina, then come home to play New Orleans, then go back to the East Coast in New England, then Buffalo at home, and at Kansas City before the Week 6 bye. That is a rough first 5 games, and with Derek Carr at quarterback, I think this will always limit the Raiders as to what they can do. There's been rumblings for a few years now they want to get him out and start new, and for good reason. He's certainly not a bad quarterback by any means, but he, unless they construct a 49ers team like last year, will never lead the Raiders to a Super Bowl. I think the Raiders have a ceiling of 8 wins this year, but with Carr, he's too good of a quarterback to let them fall to just 2 wins and get the number 1 overall pick in the draft. I don't see them getting in the playoffs in 2020, and if they do, they will be a first-round exit. Now we move on to the Broncos, who started the year 3-8 but finished the year at 7-9. They look to have found their franchise quarterback in Drew Lock and have done a phenomenal job in acquiring pieces around him to help him succeed in players like Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant, KJ Hamler, and Phillip Lindsay. They have a very bright future, as not only is their offense good, but they have star pass rusher Von Miller and a budding star in Bradley Chubb, who unfortunately missed most of 2019 due to an injury. If they were in any other division where they didn't have the defending champions and the best player in football in Patrick Mahomes, they would certainly be getting discussed all the time by the media about how good this team can be, and relatively soon at that. They finished 2019 4-1 with Drew Lock under center, and their only loss was to the Chiefs. Broncos fans have a legitimate reason to be excited for the first time since the Super Bowl win back in 2015, and now it's time to see if Drew and company can live up to the hype. Looking ahead to the Broncos 2020 season, and for starters, this will be a very fun team to watch. They have playmakers everywhere, and the progression of rookies Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler will be fun to watch to see how they scheme Hamler the ball while still feeding Courtland Sutton and Noah Fant. This will be a very hard offense for any defense to stop. Chubb and Miller, assuming both are healthy again, should combine for at least 25 sacks, if not more. They will certainly be in contention for a playoff spot in 2020, as they finished the year 4-1 with Drew Lock as their guy. Now, looking at their schedule, they start out with Tennessee at home, then go to Pittsburgh and play Tampa in Week 3. Certainly not an easy first 3 games by any means, but we will get to see what this team is made of fairly early. The floor for this team in 2020 I think is low. Because of Lock being so young, we could have a bit of a sophomore slump with all of the expectations and pressure, but the ceiling for this team is 10 to 11 wins with a playoff appearance. I really hope the Broncos live up to their potential in 2020 because they will be a very fun rivalry with the Chiefs soon enough if they do. And for the final part of today's video, we go to the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs. 2019, at least in the regular season, wasn't as good to them as 2018 was, as Patrick Mahomes got injured and they weren't the number 1 seed in the playoffs like they were the year before. They also faced 3 double-digit deficits in the postseason, and as we know now, they overcame them all. They are an offensive juggernaut and will continue to be one, with players like Pat, of course, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, speedster McCole Hardman, and now first-round pick Clyde Edwards-Helaire. While their defense isn't that good, they don't have to be when the offense can put up 35 in the blink of an eye every game. And assuming Mahomes will be healthy this year and play all 16 games, he shouldn't be expected to have the 5,000-yard, 50-touchdown season he had 2 years ago, but Patrick, and understandably so, has higher expectations on him than any other player in the league. A 4,500-yard, 37-touchdown season I think is more accurate expectations, which even that is insane. They are predicted to win the AFC West this year by everyone, and they are my pick to win it as well. Now, looking at the Chiefs' 2020 schedule, and they are so good offensively that there's no game they can't win. You can legitimately make a case they go 16-0, and while I don't think that happens, to be clear, they on paper, aside from the games they play in New Orleans and in Baltimore, will probably be the favorite in every single game. They will in week 1 kill the Texans as they did last postseason after they spotted them a 24-0 lead. And while they will play good defenses in 2020, it's easier said than done to stop an offense with two guys that run sub 4.3 40s in Tyreek Hill and McCole Hardman, an all-pro tight end in Travis Kelce, a first-round running back in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and oh, by the way, the best player in football at quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. The best a defense can do with this offense is to limit them and hope they don't give up touchdown after touchdown, because this is as close to a Madden offense as it gets. And for the division standings predictions, I think it goes 1 Kansas City, 2 Denver, 3 Los Angeles, and 4 Las Vegas. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you're still watching, I appreciate the time out of your day. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.